much for joining us during this momentary distraction of simple amusements and magic. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Faust and Company on this happy Thursday. I see a lot of people are already tuning in on the comments. I just want to always look at the comments before we start. I see that Mona Rutenberg is there. Hello to you and welcome to Faust and Company. I know you're probably here to see our featured guest of the night, Dr. Michael Likey, and he is waiting very patiently in the green room. So we're going to have him come out in just a couple minutes. But before we get on, Faust and Company is celebrating once again its episode number 28. And if you guys are going to tune in tomorrow, don't forget we have a very, very special guest for tomorrow's episode. Dinah Stats is going to be coming on. And just to give you a brief idea of who that is, she is a two-time performer on Fool Us and actually made a historical milestone by being the first openly trans person to have performed on the 7 seasons of Fool Us. And she's going to be talking about her story tomorrow, as well as the IDM conference, the Inclusivity and Diversity in Magic conference. So tune in to that. Also, one of my friends out there, he's probably not watching because he has a show in Rancho Cucamonga. I just wanted to say congratulations to my friend Jonathan Molo. He's going to be making his Magic Castle debut at the Close-Up Gallery August 5th through the 8th. So Jonathan Molo, it is, I know you've been working really hard to get there. So, you know, I just wanted to say congratulations to you, my friend, and I'll see you at the castle sometime. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I know that, you know, things are slowly opening back up in the world, and we hope that live performances will get back into the full swing of things. And, you know, I always like to check in different parts of the world. If you guys are outside of California or in a different state, please, you know, check in with me through the comments. Please say hello. Let us know how it's going out in some of the live performance happening out in different parts of the world. I really would love to kind of relay that through this live stream. But nonetheless, I think it's time to bring on our featured guest of the evening. And so our featured guest I met through the Society of American Magicians International Assembly 272, and he is the Canadian envoy. He is also the news correspondent for Abra.TV for the Canadian region. Dr. Michael Likey also holds 3 doctorate degrees: mystical research, theocentric psychology, and also divinity. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor. Not to mention, Dr. Likey is also a published author, and we'll be talking about some of his works tonight. But ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time tuning into Faust and Company, give a round of 3s in the compliments to show your applause for our featured guest, Dr. Michael Likey. Dr. Michael, pleasure to have you today. Welcome to Faust and Company, good sir.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris.
How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm excited and happy and honored that you'd have me on your show. And I see a friend of mine from Montreal is watching as well.
Yes, so I'm going to pull her comment up. Obviously, she's here to watch you. Mona Rutenberg, hello from Montreal. Hello from California. And Dr. Michael, just to let everyone know where you're at, where are you located in the world?
Vancouver, Canada area, the West Coast.
The West Coast. And already Mona is giving you a round of applause. So we're good company here. Dr. Michael, I always try to, I think I mentioned it before I brought you on. I always like to check in and see what live performances or what this pandemic, situation is all over the world. What is it like in Vancouver, Canada right now?
Well, I can't speak so much for the other magicians because there's a variety of world-known entertainers locally in Vancouver, but I can only speak for myself, and in fact really should. And for us, and for me personally, the world of Zoom, and I speak about it in an upcoming broadcast of mine called Magic Moments. It's opened up a whole world in the past year of COVID, where we can do shows, we can attend shows, we can attend lectures all over the world, where previously we might be hindered by airplane travel or time restraints or whatever.
Right. I think it is. I think we talked about this before the show. And it is somewhat of a blessing because, we are able to reach out to people that we otherwise wouldn't have reached out to before. And it's a great thing for magic because it makes it more accessible, at least in my opinion. Dr. Michael, I know that going through your portfolio and career in magic, it is extensive as well as impressive. But I always like to go back to the beginning. I guess it's this, it is really, how did you get into magic? I'm very interested in that. I know it is a very common question, but for you, sir, how did you get into magic?
For me personally, growing up in Montreal, first of all, Montreal is to me one of the greatest cities in the world, next to New York and Paris and London, etc. And yes, LA. But really, I saw magic every day growing up in Montreal. On TV, we had cable before the rest of Canada did. So I was privy to watching the Magic Land of Alakazam, for example, with Mark Wilson. We also had, and Mona will know this, 7 days a week, we had Magic Tom Auburn. Hence my name, Magic Mike Likey. Magic. Right. A lot of Montreal magicians back in the day borrowed that moniker, if you will. And how could I avoid magic? I just loved it right away. It spoke to me on television and live. Everywhere I went, I'd go to a mall, there's a magic show, and so forth. So that excited me intrinsically. That excited me from the very beginning. As a child, I was, if you'll pardon the stereotype, wonderstruck. And just by colors, to me, magic still is colors, and it's things changing into other things, and it's a world of wonder. I think the late Doug Henning really epitomized that whole thing of wonder and color and magic and mysticism, if you will. So it was that. It was pretty much that. And as I grew a little bit older, I ventured forth to magic shops in Montreal. Back in the day when I was around 14 or so, we really only had 1 or 2 magic shops. And one of them was called Henry Gordon's Party Center. It was on a street called the Carré in Montreal. I know Mona knows the Carré, Rue des Carrés. And again, I fell in love. My mom and dad went with me. We walked into that magic shop. It was actually just a counter at the back of his party center, his novelty store, if you will. Yeah. And he showed me live. This was one of the first tricks I ever witnessed. Two tricks actually. Was the color changing handkerchief, not the double color changing, but the simply, blue to yellow, I think it was,
Yes.
and the color changing knives this close.
Oh,
Right under my nose, and his adept hands and fingers accomplished it. His name, I don't know if I'd mentioned Henry Gordon. He became quite famous in Montreal and Toronto and had a newspaper column, etc. And he could see in my face that not only, I was more than just curious how it was done, but even at 14, it was like a thing of wonder, a minor miracle.
yeah.
And he turned to my mom and dad and he said, he'll be into this for the rest of his life. And guess what?
It came true. It came to fruition. Dr. Michael, now I know that as a kid, we all get into it as an interest, but something must have clicked to where it became more than just a hobby for you. Do you recall any moment in your life where you said, this was what I wanted to do?
Actually, I do. And it's a bit of a story, but I'll make it very brief because we're somewhat limited for time. I grew up as an artist and musician. Mona knows me. She actually got me a few gigs in Montreal, playing guitar, playing folk music, my own stuff and all that. So that was really my first start as an entertainer, a stage entertainer, and graphic design. So I actually went to college in Montreal for graphic design to have a quote unquote career.
Right.
And later on, we fast forward a little bit. I'm in my early 20s. I'm living in Toronto, as many Montrealers did. They kind of migrated west. Some stayed in Montreal, some stayed in Toronto. Others went on. And I was doing caricatures at Ontario Place,
Yes.
which is a family-oriented kind of amusement center, if you will. And there was always magicians doing shows in the theaters at that center, at that area. So I caught every single day and I made notes and I watched these local guys from Toronto and from all over the world doing shows because I knew I was getting ready to get married to my first wife and move to Winnipeg, which is in around the central part of Canada, Manitoba, the province of Manitoba.
Yes.
And my first visit to Winnipeg, something felt really familiar. It's like I knew that city. I knew where certain things were intuitively.
Yes.
And everything I seemed to offer, even on that brief visit there, they seemed to like. They took and gave back in terms of applause and money.
Yes.
And so I knew that we were going to relocate to Winnipeg from TO and that I was going to make two careers, one in graphic design because I had already procured a job in Winnipeg before moving there, and magic. And I smuggled in from the magic shop called the Browser's Den back in 80-81. That's when I was in TO in Toronto, and smuggled in and hid behind the couch in Toronto with my future ex-wife, all these tricks. And I practiced them, and I knew that I was gonna do something with that in Winnipeg. And sure enough, yes, it was a passion. It's like I was driven.
Yes. Now you mentioned something. You studied graphic art. Now, and you also, I believe, you wrote a book called A Man for All Seasons. Am I correct?
Yes, you did do your research.
And it kind of, and I always look at magic as a form of journey. And I guess your journey goes from being, introduced to magic as a kid, learning graphic art as an adult, but also going on to becoming a magician. And I always wondered, what was it about? And you explained it right there. You knew you were going to do two things, and it was magic and art. But also leading into further down the road, I mentioned that you had 3 doctorate degrees.
Yes.
Now, what came first out of all the degrees that you got? And let me caveat it with this. Why that one first? Was it related to magic?
Very good question. In a way, it is. I'll backtrack a bit,
Yeah.
because my journey from Toronto to Winnipeg, that was only the beginning of a spiritual journey. I wasn't even consciously aware that I was on a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get too heavy into this, but I'll touch on it lightly.
Yeah.
During the course of doing 250 magic shows a year for about a dozen years while living in Winnipeg, plus doing the TV show for about 9 or 10 years, I had learned relaxation techniques. A Mahatma gave me the techniques at the time known as knowledge. It was 4 meditation techniques. So I had no problem. Say I had 3 or 4 shows in a day and I had to travel to various ends of the city of Winnipeg, of
Yes.
setting up, doing the show, incredible energy of the audience. You take it in, you pack up, you quickly run to your car in the middle of winter on ice, I might add, and sitting in the car, taking a breath, getting my energy back or getting whatever, just relaxing, and then heading to the next thing, stopping, meditating, setting up. I
Right.
really don't believe I could have done all that 8 shows a weekend back
Yes.
to back without meditation. So I believe that meditation was my true introduction to spirituality and Reiki, or Ling Chi as it's known in Chinese.
Now, Dr. Michael, I mean, you brought up something that I kind of threaded as a commonality with the subjects that you brought up. I look at those subjects and I think of one thing: healing. Healing in terms of a person's self-being. Would you say that in your performance magic, would you say that that is a goal in magic, is to use the performance to somewhat in a therapeutic way for the audience, or a healing way? Is that an objective?
Wow, that's big. You moved me, Chris. I was going to be like the stoic, the very professional. You moved me.
Oh,
I'll tell you why you moved me. Because yes, now I do. When I was in Winnipeg doing all those shows, I wasn't even thinking in those terms.
yeah.
After moving to the West Coast, to Vancouver, it was a whole other kettle of fish. I don't believe I said that expression, but it's like
Right.
priorities were completely different.
Yes.
Fees for magic shows are still half of what they are even in Winnipeg. I don't know why. It's certainly not due to finances. I think it just has to do with priorities and what kids
Yes.
and their families would rather go climb mountains and hike than sit through magic shows. It's more, it seems to be more an indoor thing of the central Canada and the East. I think it applies to the States as well. But in any case, I moved out here and was faced with many challenges that I was completely unprepared for, because I thought I'd simply just continue, move from Winnipeg and sort of do my marketing plan. I did have a marketing strategy and just continue where I left off.
Yeah.
That didn't seem to be in the cards, or the tarot cards, if you will, at all. And that in itself was quite traumatic, but it also forced me to go even more inward. And I kind of started that journey just before moving to Vancouver. I began it in Winnipeg. I became a little bit introverted, if you will, and reading my tarot cards just for fun, and actually doing that a little bit for fun and profit. And I moved to Vancouver. No one was interested in anything I had done for the last 30 years.
Right.
So what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? It caused me, it was a blessing for sure. It caused me to go inward, and almost, people use this term, they say I reinvent myself a lot. I don't think so. I think I cope, to be honest, or adapt, if you will. I don't think I've expressed professionally anything that wasn't within me anyway.
Right.
So I don't consider it really reinventing myself. I think it's just aspects of myself that came out, if you will. And I'll give you a very brief example. So to try to make a living, to try to pay back the debt that I incurred moving to the West Coast, A friend of mine, also a mime, by the way, very long retired, really nice fellow, a mime, professional mime. He introduced me to some places in Vancouver area to set up and do caricatures.
Ah,
And it was okay. It wasn't hundreds or thousands of people a day walking by me like out east. It
right.
was maybe 20, 50 people a day, completely different ball of wax out here. And I was struggling.
Yeah.
One of the venues that he got me into, I met the administration. They seemed to like me for some reason. They said, "Yeah, just do whatever you do. We trust you. Just give us a percentage that was set out." And I'm sitting there, Chris, just the week before. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this because I'm grateful. I had agents booking me $200 an hour to do caricatures at corporate functions.
Oh, wow.
And here I am, on West Coast, sitting. You could almost see the tumbleweeds, if they have them on West Coast, blow through this market. And
Right.
people, I'm all set up and I'm excited and I've got my sign and my chair and my easel. People walk by and they go like this. They look me up and down and they sniff at me and they walk away. And it's like, this is hard to do for 2 months every single day of the week.
Right.
But I persisted. I'm a man who will persist. And do or die,
Right.
how can they not like or even be interested in caricatures? I'd never experienced that before,
Right.
because there was another plan in the cards, so to speak. And one day I woke up and I was tired of schlepping my easel and my art case and all this, by public transit, I might add, about a half an hour away or more. I woke up and something said, just offer tarot cards at this location.
Right.
I thought, oh, I enjoy doing it. People seem to like it. I've done it for pleasure, never for a living. Let me try that. And the vision I had was the word tarot in white on a marble background. I just happened to have marble wallpaper, and I made up a quick sign. I faxed the location permission, asked them permission. Of course, they didn't care. And I went down, and this is the honest to goodness truth, Chris. I'm not even finished setting up my magic table, by the way. Unfold the table, put the sign up, and I turn and there's lineups.
Oh, wow.
I just put up the tarot sign. I haven't even unfolded my chairs, and there's lineups. I made hundreds of dollars that day. So to me, I was shown that's the thing to do. I don't know forever, but certainly at that location at the time. And I never looked back for a few years.
Wonderful. Dr. Mike, it just kind of dawned on me, and Clinton's here, so I wanted to say hello to Clinton.
Hi, Clint.
And also, Edward, I wanted to point out that your story is really touching, and Edward Unward says, great story, by the way. Dr. Mike, I think what I'm very intrigued with your story. First off, you mentioned a couple things, and I think for every magician out there watching now, I think trying to find the authentic self of who we are as a performer and also as a person is a difficult thing to do. And I think what your story is showing is that you had to take certain doors and roads to find what it is at that time. And I appreciate that. But you also, now I wanted to bring it back a little bit because I think I went a little bit ahead. You also had a career in TV, and I'm wondering, how does one go from performing magic and producing magic and being on a show for several years? How did that fall on your journey in magic, Dr.
First
Mike?
of all, I've got to tell you, of all the things I've done, and when I say all, I'm not saying this to brag. It's just sometimes it amazes me. I step back and my wife even goes, "That's you." Like, she looks at the credentials and it's like, yeah, but I'm just doing it because I dig it, and it's a way to give.
Right.
One day I get a phone call in Winnipeg. I'm still in the 80s and early 90s in Winnipeg. It was the mid 80s. And I'd been doing a series of monthly shows. I rented a planetarium auditorium, and did box office, and did all the stuff in the advertising promotion. It was basically to highlight local talent, and I emceed it and did my magic segment as well.
Right.
And I get a phone call from, they were called at the time VPW. They're Rogers Cable now. For Canadian viewers, they'll know what that is.
Yes.
And they asked me if I would do one special on TV, produce a special for myself. At the time, my series of shows, live shows, was called Kitty Cabaret.
Kitty Cabaret.
Kitty Cabaret, Kiddie Cabaret. And it was kind of like a circus in a way. I was, in a sense, the ringmaster. I was the MC, the host. I do my segment, and then I'd bring out a clown, and they do their segment, etc. I try to get variety entertainers, and they liked that format. So they wanted an hour format. I wrote them. I really felt this is my in, because I grew up watching magic on television in Montreal. I wanted to do that just for fun. I didn't even care if I got paid for it. Also, it would be a gimmick. I would be the only magician in Winnipeg on TV. So I wrote out a proposal for the special, and then for an ongoing 30-minute, and technically it's 28 minutes with promos.
Yes.
They accepted it. And it's like, whoa, this was big. Yeah. And it turned out to be a 9-year affair, love affair, if you will. The first few seasons of it, I called it Kitty Cabaret.
Yes.
And then I can say this on the air because she's not watching, with the breakup of my first marriage.
Yes.
She was a clown, the main clown on the show. I was inspired by Mark Wilson, so I was the magician with the clown, female clown assistant. And she left, and the other clowns, no pun intended, left with her. So the only person that stayed was my puppeteer. And I thought, I better switch formats quickly. And it was almost to the day. It was around my birthday in July 1989. I'll never forget this. Yes. I got all the stuff together, background illustrations. I knew I was going to use chroma key, which I'm actually using here tonight, which is interesting. Yes. And it became Magic Mike's Castle. So I was a wizard with a castle interior, and the puppeteer was there doing a dragon and a lion, a couple of other puppets, and I'd have guests on. They'd do walk-ons. That was the most popular show, and also my personal favorite. People from Winnipeg, I believe of a certain age, still know me. I'm that magic guy from the castle. I'm Magic Mike's Castle guy. And that lasted quite a number of seasons until I was asked to guest regularly, weekly, on another very widely seen show called Skittlebits with Joey. Joey was a Juno award-winning performer, and that's a whole other story. I'm trying to do this really briefly. I'm very long-winded.
No, not at all.
In any case, I got on his show once a week, and doing caricatures or magic. I alternated. So I was really broadly seen. So for a number of years, I was seen both on my show, on his show, I guess that on other shows. But I had to change the format of my own show because it was medieval. I love medieval things and things Gothic and steampunk and all that. I had to, because his show took place in modern day in an attic. And I feel stupid to walk on dressed in medieval garb. So what I did was I adapted my show. I made it modern day. I wore what I'd wear on Skittlebits on his show. I switched. I had a lute-shaped guitar. I switched to my Ovation regular guitar and changed the format. I don't believe it was as popular as my medieval look show. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just preferred it. But all in all, and changed the title from Kitty Cabaret, Magic Mike's Castle for a few years, and ultimately for the last couple of years, Magic Mike and Company. And it was a blast. I remember walking into a big department store, and my show was on. I was in the TV section, and there I was. So I turned on all the TVs to that channel.
Wow. And I have to ask you, and because what I'm trying to piece together is you were a graphic artist doing magic. And would you say that this opportunity came by merely of a chance that you wrote a proposal and you just took a chance to get this TV show in order, or is that something that you trained to do? I mean, no one just comes up with a television show and says, I'm going to do a television show, because there's so much involved. That's what I'm trying to piece, Dr. Michael.
Very interesting. Because I loved television, as a youngster and a teenager and young adult, I watched formats. I don't know why, it's kind of the way my mind thinks. I watched the length of segments, the total, because you have to also do a rundown sheet every week if you're doing a show. And so I just became aware of that. I didn't have friends in the industry necessarily. I just kind of knew what to do, and I went for it. So I believe it was meant to be. I believe at that point in my life, in that history, that little chapter in my book, if you will, my biography, that was meant to be. Anything that was really fun and that I enjoyed and I was passionate about, I believe was meant to be, because I had the most success on all levels.
It truly is an inspirational story, Dr. Michael. I mean, just it reminds me that even Bill Cook, another great magician friend of mine, he had also said that things happen because you're there. And if you're just there, things may happen, but you need to be there. And I think that's the case for you. Dr. Michael, you also mentioned your autobiography, and I really want to talk about your latest book that you have. Wow. And let me pull up the name here: Metaphysics, Mysticism, and Performance Magic. And I think this is something for the stage magician. Am I correct?
You are, and look at that. I just happen to have a copy here myself. This book, by the way, is available on Amazon.
Yes.
But I had to get that in. And it's just the marketing person in me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Could you give us a summary, Dr. Michael, on what that book entails?
Wow. I can just say, it's about relaxation techniques and Tai Chi and how-to book. But it's more than that. And the journey towards that was this year. During COVID, which I have to say was a year, maybe two, in my mind seems like a year, I wrote 6 and published 6 books to Amazon. I have 45 metaphysically inclined books.
Right.
Because I'm a doctor of theocentric psychology, a clinical hypnotherapist, I had that career, that private practice for many years. And just recently, the last few years, I've gone back to magic. When you cure people, they're not your clients anymore. When they're
right,
when they feel okay, that's it. And I looked around, it's like, oh, I guess I'm retired from doing that now. Let me do what I really love again. So not that I didn't love that, but I see myself the next 20 years of my life devoted to magic again. So there was about 10 years where I was doing my studies and my private practice, actually 15 years. And so the journey to this book in particular, one of the 6 I published this year to Amazon, was actually applying to the Magic Circle, the most prestigious, as you know, the most prestigious club in the world, based in London, England. And I have to tell you, that was an incredible journey. I'd never been more nervous to audition for anything in my life.
Could you, Dr. Michael, for those people out there who don't know what the Magic Circle is, could you give us like a real brief summary on its significance in the magic world? I mean, that might be a major task, but
I don't begin, to be honest, but it's kind of the goal, if you will. Many magicians dream of it. It's located in central London, right in the center of London. It's not the oldest. It's probably the 2nd oldest, next to the Society of American Magicians organization, but it's certainly the most prestigious. And some of the greatest British world famous magicians of the day, the 1910s, 1920s, started it very, very briefly. So it's got an incredible history, and it's got a clubhouse, and it's kind of like America's Magic Castle, but it's the Magic Circle, and they're not associated at all. However, that's the only way I can kind of explain it. But the history is deeper, and not that the Magic Castle isn't deep as well. We have a great love and respect for it as well. But the Magic Circle was kind of like on my bucket list. Absolutely. And with COVID, I did what you did. I knew couldn't fly to London to audition. Zoom. There's that word, the Z word, Zoom. And thank goodness I was able to do a Zoom show after my interview with them, and they accepted me and all this sort of thing, but I still had to audition. That was a trip in itself, Chris. That was my true journey back full circle to real mysticism.
Yes. And we had a conversation prior to coming on live. You mentioned that you did the cups and balls.
Yes.
You also mentioned, just to give people an idea of how significant this place is, Prince Charles had to audition to become a member of the Magic Circle. So it just shows you how magic is truly taken seriously there.
Absolutely. That's one of the things I love about England, the whole mystique, the whole history, the whole the feel of it and everything. So the Magic Circle really mirrors that. And because Prince Charles auditioned, and there's a very famous picture, I'm sure you've seen it or even have it, of him with the Magic Circle logo behind him, and he's doing the 3 cups and balls. I didn't want to do it in the standard way. Not that it's no good, but if I don't do a tip-top job, I mean, we've seen world-class magicians do that effect.
Right.
I don't believe I'm a world-class magician. I'm pretty good. And I can entertain. I know how to entertain.
You are a world-class magician.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that, Chris.
And let me interject there real quick, Dr. Michael. Out of all the things that you could have chosen to audition with, you have chosen to choose arguably the hardest magic trick that in its existence. So I think you kind of downplay your skill set. But congratulations on the Magic Circle. It's
Thank you. On that trip, on that rehearsal, which was at least a month, because I used to do that same routine years ago. It's a 2-cup routine.
Yeah.
And I knew it 20 years ago, 25 years ago, actually, like the back of my hand. But I had to relearn it, and I sought out music for it. And something said, this was a whole intuitive project in itself, get Disney sounding music. And why? Because the Disney company, they're geniuses at manipulating emotion. Highs and lows, if you watch their movies and the construction of it and the placing of the music and all. So I got copyright-free music off of YouTube, which sounded very, you'll hear it. Yeah. The viewers will see it or hear it at one point. And it worked. The timing of it with the music worked. When the time came, I was nervous as heck. And I opened with a couple of card routines, an ambitious card routine. And as well, I had my wife, my current wife, who was sitting right here, being the assistant, also the Zoom audience, the committee. And then I went into the cups and balls. And I found out a month later, a very famous magician who produced Illusionarium. It's opening in Toronto anytime soon. Jamie Allen, he rang me up from England.
Wow.
And told me, and he recorded it. I haven't posted it yet because I'm not sure I should, but he actually recorded our conversation, a video. And I was stunned. I was grateful. I still am. I'll never forget that trip, and I'll never stop doing the cups and balls.
And it seems, Dr. Michael, that your life and career in magic have come full circle and literally back to the Magic Circle. And, now it seems like, because you mentioned that you are taking your magic in a whole different direction than what you started with.
That's true. That's very true. Are you interested in finding out?
Absolutely. Of
I hope our
course.
audience is. I think I hear snoring in the background. Maybe the audience, or it may be my little cat. I'm not sure which.
And, yeah,
Yes, originally I was the what some of us call the working magician. I could
yes.
knock off colorful, entertaining, funny, amazing shows, 6 in a weekend, sometimes more, in busy seasons, and get paid at the end, and just I was commercial, what you'd call
Right.
commercial. Also doing walk around magic, I had my stuff down, and I'm grateful for that I had the opportunity to hone all that. But at this point in my life, I'm not doing magic to make a living. I haven't for years. I'm doing it because I genuinely love it.
Yes. Yes.
So my audiences have changed. I'll do the odd commercial show, what I call commercial show, and they dig it. Audiences like it. But I'm not the same person I was back in Winnipeg. I'm not even the same person I was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So I've evolved into whatever my promo material looks like, with this kind of background, and not unlike the way you're dressed now. It's kind of a period kind of thing. And it's more meant for magicians, conventions, competition shows, if you will. Not for the sake of winning trophies. I don't really care. I've never competed. I've never won a trophy. It just never grabbed me. I wasn't scared of not winning. It just wasn't my thing. I'd rather, back in the day, do tons of shows, make a lot of money, and entertain audiences. That was my reward. Now, it's more about just sharing, and maybe the mystical part of it. As my book, we will come full circle, I see. My book talks about meditating, doing tai chi, yoga, etc., so that you can relax and be completely relaxed on stage. I know you get this as a mime and as a magician. It's like we're in the moment. We're in the moment, and the magic. I am going to do this. I wasn't planning on doing it, but a regular magician, let's see if I can bring this up to the camera. A regular magician would kind of do that, and oh, it's gone, and that's cool. That's whatever. Or maybe like this, they do that, and oh, it's gone. But maybe I'm really believing that I can make this darn object vanish. This precious piece of gold metal representing infinity, or a circle of life. I'm placing it into my hand like this. I'm rubbing my hand. I can feel it melting away. I really believe it is. And lo and behold, here it is here. It's a whole different journey. It's a whole different feel.
Wonderful, Dr. Michael. I didn't expect that. And
Me too.
I can't say enough. The journey that you have taken, it reinforces a lot of what I'm going through, and I'm sure what a lot of people out there are going through, is really going through a journey of magic. And just to give you an idea, Edward's giving you a round of applause here.
Oh, thank you, Edward.
Display of magic.
Thank you.
But I also want to say that your magic has taken on a journey, and I like how you're doing it really for the love of magic. And to give people an idea, you are now the Canadian envoy for Canada for the International Assembly 272 of the Society of American Magicians.
What an honor. I'm so thankful for that.
Could you tell us what the envoy's role is, and at least in your words, what it is for people out there who don't know?
Well, essentially, I represent Canada and whatever is going on in the magic world. Now, interestingly enough, I was already doing the Canadian monthly magic news before Abra-TV accepted it. It's going to be a year soon. So I was trying to fill a gap. I
Yes.
felt that there was nothing, no visual medium. There's certainly newsletters and all this sort of thing. If you're a magician, you know about it. But there wasn't like a broadcast. And again, it's my love of broadcasting, of doing television, if you will, through
Right.
this medium. And so I basically share what's going on in the magic world from across Canada. This led, I believe, to me being the Canadian envoy. You're the envoy, you're the Californian envoy, and congratulations for that. We have various envoys for various countries, and we represent, if you will,
Yeah.
that part of the world. But it's more than that, because we're an extension of the Society of American Magicians, International Assembly 272. And I'm so grateful to,
Yes.
I guess I'm going to do a shout out to Anthony Darkstone,
Absolutely.
for all he's done for us
Yes.
and the assembly, and so much more. That's a whole other show,
Yes.
actually.
And
So
hopefully we can have Anthony on here to
yes,
kind
I'm
of.
hoping so. But I asked him when he approached me, and he says, "How would you like to be the Canadian envoy?" And I thought, "Oh boy, I have a lot on my plate. I'm producing several shows, and this and that, and I'm going with a live show probably in the fall, an actual stage show again at a venue. You'll all see it on social media. You'll get it." But in any case, I asked him, "What does it entail?" And he goes, "Basically, what you're doing now." And so whenever there's news for the Society of American Magicians International Assembly, or something I feel is of interest to the magic world, the Canadian magic world, I just post it across Facebook.
Yes.
The Calgary Assembly, or the Toronto Assembly, or the Vancouver Assembly. And that's what I was doing it anyway. He said, basically, you were doing it anyway. You'll just be doing a little more of it. Oh, I think I can do that.
So it was an easy fit, to say the least.
Yes.
On that note, you are also the Abra.TV news correspondent for the Canadian region.
Yes.
And so Tim Wise is the founder of Abra.TV. And so you are carrying on this love for broadcasting, but also magic. Could you tell us a little bit about Abra.TV?
I would. I think, and I'm not just saying this to be nice, I think Tim Wise is a genius. And I hope he gets to watch this and listen to this segment. The guy is doing what I would have liked to have done. So I'm doing it at a smaller scale for the Canadian news. However, I didn't see his thing. I did my thing first, and then he accepted my thing.
Yeah.
He offers a platform for very famous magicians,
Yes.
for up and comers as well, to have their video segments, their little segments on Abra TV. But
Yes.
we also have other magicians posting regularly, usually once a month or more, news type of things.
Yes.
He's also hoping to get, and this is where I'm thinking maybe some of the worldwide reps from our assembly might do a video and post it. So then people watching Abra TV, and that's really what it's called, abratv.com, I believe it is. There's a wide variety of videos. Almost anybody you want to look up. I think there's David Blaine.
Right.
There's, I think, Mind Freak. Maybe anyone that's really famous is on there. And it's a great venue for magicians out there, and lay people alike.
Dr. Michael, it is a pleasure to talk to you and to hear your journey in magic. But before I round this up, I want to make sure that everyone knows how to get a hold of you. So I have here is your website, magicmikelikey.com. You can look magicmikelikey.com. And then also, you're also on Instagram. You're very active on there, Dr. Magic Mike Likey. And then also on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken, there, Dr. Michael Likey. Dr. Michael, I could talk to you all day. And I think, on top of the conversation we just had, I wanted to tell people that we were talking for almost just as long prior to the conversation. So I'm not just saying that. I enjoy your conversations and your stories. And I definitely would love to have you come back on to talk more. But Before I let you go, Dr. Michael, I wanted to, if you're willing, to ask you a couple questions.
Ah, okay.
The famous questions. And just to give people out there a history, these are questions that were used in the Victorian era as a parlor game. But primarily it was meant to get to know people on a deeper level, and it was made famous by a Victorian poet by the name of Marcel Proust, but also in a more modern time. James Lipton, someone who I adore, he was the host of Inside the Actor's Studio, and he would ask questions to celebrities. So, Dr. Michael, if you're willing, I would love to ask you the same questions that James Lipton did. Is that okay?
Absolutely. I'd be honored, and it's going to be fun. I just know it.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen out there, these are the Lipton questions.
I love that.
I knew you would. You kind of get it. Dr. Michael, the first question I have for you is, what is your favorite magic word?
Oh, simsalabim.
Simsalabim. What is your least favorite magic word?
Abracadabra.
What turns you on in magic?
I almost gave away something of ours, but anyway, I'm going to say sawing a lady in half.
What turns you off in magic?
Escapes.
Well said. What sound or noise in magic do you love?
Applause.
What sound or noise in magic do you hate?
Silence.
Well said. Dr. Michael, what is your favorite cuss word if you have one?
Really?
You don't have to answer it, but feel free.
I will. Oh, shoot.
Very good. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Fixing cars.
What profession would you not like to attempt?
Oh, washing streets, like being those street sweepers.
And the very last question, Dr. Michael. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
What are you doing here?
Well said, Dr. Michael. Dr. Michael, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you being our featured guest of the evening. Is there any last thoughts that you want to tell the audience before we go tonight?
Just keep at it. Whatever it is, whether it's magic, persist. Even if you don't get there, it's the journey. Oh boy, it's going to be a cliche. It's not the destination, it's the journey. That wasn't meant as a cliche. I really mean it. Because getting there, driving there, that's a great metaphor. You get to look, you get to see, you get to experience along the way. And if you happen to get there, fantastic. If you don't, you pull over, you have a sandwich.
And you just enjoy the journey.
Absolutely.
Dr. Michael, well said. Your wisdom and knowledge, your experience and your stories have fascinated me tonight, and I hope people out there feel the same. And I would definitely love to have you come back, Dr. Michael. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for coming on Faust and Company.
Thank you for honoring me. It was a pleasure and an honor to be here, and certainly I'll come back.
The honor is all mine. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris Herren as Faust. This is Dr. Michael Likey, and we'll see you next time.